I think we can get started now. So, good morning to everyone here and welcome to the BringAbout introduction and demonstration webinar. So, I'm Janita Pakiraj and I'm an engineer and net zero lead at Discerna. My role at Discerna involves around developing net zero route maps for businesses, conducting energy audits, and implementing energy efficient and renewable solutions within the built environment. I also have a background in electronics and communication engineering and renewable energy technologies. So, this workshop is to demonstrate how BringAbout can help businesses to complete their base year assessment and set targets, which are essential first steps in a business's journey to net zero. Additionally, we will discuss on how to generate a carbon reduction plan using BringAbout. So during demonstration, we will start with registering with BringAbout, setting up the business details, setting the base year and selection of emission categories, data entry under Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3, setting of near term and long term targets, and finally, generation of carbon reduction plans. So I will explain more about the carbon reduction plans in the next slide. And this presentation will be about 60 minutes long. And if you have any questions, please use the chat feature and they will all be answered once the demonstration has been completed. And the slides will be sent over by email after this presentation. Our other workshops, which are Discerna's Net Zero Journey for Businesses and Emissions Reporting and Target Setting workshops, discuss more in detail about steps involved in a business's journey to net zero and the methodology and standards that we follow within BringAbout to calculate emissions and set targets. So, a little more about the carbon reduction plans. We all know that in 2019, UK became the first major economy to commit to achieving net zero by 2050. So in 2021, a procurement policy note, which is called PPN 0621, was published by the UK government that set out the requirement for a carbon reduction plan for suppliers to be eligible to enter the procurement process for all major central government contracts with a contract value of over £5 million per annum. And carbon reduction plan is basically an emissions report that must include scope 1, scope 2, and a subset of 5 scope 3 categories. So I will discuss these categories in detail during the demonstration. A template for the carbon reduction plan with detailed guidelines for the content has been published by the government, which are to be completed by the bidding supplier and must meet the reporting requirements. Carbon reduction plan is becoming more and more important each day. For example, as of now, the NHS requires suppliers to publish a carbon reduction plan for all new contracts above £5 million per annum. But from April 2024, the NHS will extend the carbon reduction plan requirements to cover all procurements, irrespective of the value of the bid. So that's how important the carbon reduction plan is becoming now. So specific to the Tees Valley project, our aim is to help businesses calculate their base year emissions and generate a compliant carbon reduction plan using BringAbout. So over to the demonstration now. Hope you can see my login screen. So you would have all been sent a link to the sign up page. So we will start from the registration process and then proceed within the BringAbout tool. So I'm just giving the basic details. So the contact number is not a mandatory field. Company registration number. Industry sector. Business turnover. Number of FTEs and the registration code. You will all be provided with the registration code in an email that was sent to you with BringAbout login details, and the registration code. So the registration code is unique to each business within Tees Valley. So once you read all your terms and conditions, you can then agree, and it will ask you to log in again. So once you've logged in, this is how your screen will look. So that the dashboard is currently empty because we have no data entered into it. So moving forward, we'll see how we can go about entering our details into BringAbout. So first of all, the basic details. We have the data that was given during the registration that's fed into the tool automatically. So if you wish to change any of the details, you can do it by clicking on edit. And then you can also give your registered address. And you can add a business logo if you want. And if you are um, if you would like to go about equity share approach for the emissions reporting, then you can enable this by clicking on this. If you're going with the operational control or financial control approach, then this can just be disabled. To know more about equity share approach or the operational control approach, we've got the emissions reporting and target setting webinar, which talks more in detail about it. But feel free to ask any questions regarding that here as well. So once you've checked all these details, the next is to add your location and then the building. So location, so you can add more than one location if you've got offices in few different places. So we've got office just here, so I'm just adding one location. And then you can specify the building names if you've got various units within that particular location. So I would call our building as Discerna House. It's mostly to for you to identify the emissions that you're entering for a particular building. It's just for that purpose. So I've added the building, and please make sure to press enter once you click on the building name uh, in order for that to get saved. So yeah, so we've now added the location and a building name within that location. So next step after that is to set the reporting year. So within BringAbout, we allow businesses to add the base year emissions if you've already calculated. So for example, the carbon reduction plan must have the base year emissions and then the current year emissions. So if you are generating the carbon reduction plan for the base year, then you just have to give a no here and proceed. But if you have already calculated your base year emissions, you can just give a yes and enter all the base year details here and then move on to start adding your reporting here. But we do not have your base year emissions calculated already, so I would give a no. Then the next step would be to choose your base year. So you will have to click on edit, and it's up to you to choose whether you would like to report your emissions through a calendar year or a financial year. But please keep in mind that once you set your base year to a particular reporting period, whether it's calendar year or financial year, you will have to continue using the same reporting period throughout your other subsequent reporting years. You cannot change your reporting period. But if you attempt to change, so for example, if you have calculated your base year using calendar year period, and if you would like to change the second year to financial year, then you will have to start from the beginning, because in order to be consistent, we advise having the same reporting period throughout your net zero journey. So for us, I'm choosing the calendar year, and I would like to keep 2023 as my base year. So if you're choosing financial year, you will just have to give the end date for the financial year, and then it would calculate the period automatically. So then save the details. So I do not have any other reporting years because 2023 is my base year. And then you can also set uh, these details within, sorry. So you can edit the percentages, the exact revenue if you know, and then the exact number of employees if you know here. So the next step after selecting your base year would be to choose your emission categories, and also to note the little I that you can see here are all tool tips that might help you to know more about what we ask for. So just hovering over these icons can bring the tooltips to you for you to read them. So moving on to the emissions category. So basically a carbon reduction plan uh, is said to be compliant if it consists of scope 1, scope 2, and 5 scope 3 categories. So all these categories are mandatory, but the carbon reduction plan compliance allows you to give explanation if a particular category is not applicable to your business. A valid justification is accepted. So within BringAbout, if you get to toggle this button on, so it automatically chooses the mandatory categories that are required for your business. So company vehicles and company owned electric vehicles are not mandatory because not every business will have them. But if you've got company owned vehicles which are diesel or petrol vehicles or electric vehicles, please feel free to choose these as well. So for the example here, I would also like to choose company vehicles. So I select all the categories that are applicable to me, and clicking on this toggle button has enabled all the CRP mandatory categories. So if any of these categories are not applicable to my business, I will be able to give a justification later on in the tool. So you can save, and then you'll have this message saying they've all been saved. So we've completed our basic details. We've also set our base year, and we've also selected the categories that we are going to report on. So the next one forward is to go into the emission sources. So this is the page where you will be entering the emissions data for all your um, uh, emission categories. So starting from scope 1, so fuel combustion and company owned vehicles. So we use natural gas. So I am looking for natural gas here. So that's gaseous fuels, and I would select natural gas. So within BringAbout, you can either sum up all your consumption data outside of the tool and upload the entire data for the whole calendar year, or you can add chunks of data for different quarters. So here I am adding the data, consumption data for 6 months period. So I've got this data, and is the data provided relevant to the reporting period specified? No, I'm giving it in two different periods, so I do not click this. So the period for me is from January 2021 up to 30th of, sorry, 30th of June 2020, since it's 2023. It's 2023 as well. So, so this data is for the first 6 months of my reporting year. So if you've got more than one location or one building that this consumption data corresponds to, then you can choose here. For us, it's just one location and it's just one building here. So once you've entered the data, please make sure to click on the save data button. So if you try to move on to the next one without clicking on save data, your details will not be saved into the tool. So just click on save data. So we've got natural gas added here. And now I'm also adding the natural gas data for the other 6 months. So it's again natural gas, and the value is 06, and my period is for July 2023. to December 2023 and I click on save data. So I've got my natural gas consumption saved here. And another emission source I've got to report on is our refrigerant leakage. So that's again in this drop down of refrigerants. You can choose the refrigerant that is applicable to your business and enter the leakage data here. So this activity data is for my entire reporting period. So I click on this checkbox and then save my details. So I've got all my fuel combustion and company owned facilities saved here. I then move on to fuel combustion and company owned vehicles. So we've got four diesel vans. So it's a passenger delivery vehicle. So I click on delivery vehicle, choose diesel van. So I've got four vehicles and the total distance traveled is the combined miles traveled by the four diesel vans. So that's 25,678 miles in total for the entire calendar year. So I again save this data. So I've got data under fuel combustion company owned vehicles and facilities saved. Moving on to scope 2. So I've got purchased electricity and this is for the reporting period. So the consumption data is 32,535 kilowatt hours. So regarding the market based emission factors, so for any country that has renewable energy products, so we will have to report on both market based emissions and location based emissions, and the users can choose which one of them can be added to the total. So if you are on any renewable energy contract with your suppliers, then you will have your supplier specific emission factor in your bills. You can choose this and give that particular emission factor. If not, you can just select supplier based fuel mix factor, which will then list this a list of suppliers that you've got. So if your supplier is not on this list, then the best thing to do would be to select the residual mix factor, but we know our supplier. And so I select my supplier here, and then I can choose to add market-based emissions or location-based emissions. So if you are on a renewable energy contract, I would suggest selecting the market-based emissions, but we are not, so I would just go on with location-based emissions. And then this is again for our building here. So I'm saving the data under scope 2. So I have no other scope 2 sources to report on. Moving on to scope 3, so upstream transportation and distribution. So I've got to report on upstream transportation. So here we allow businesses to report on the amount spent on transportation in pounds. So um, so the things that we transported from our company are just posters, and the services we've used is the postal and courier services, and the amount is £800 in total. So I've added that. It's again for and I've saved the data. I do not have any upstream distribution to report on. So moving on to waste generated in operations. So water supplied in our company to our company, it's um, so if you do not select the location and building, it defaults to all locations and all buildings as a total. But if you want to submit the data for a particular building within a location, then feel free to do that. I'm going to just leave it as all locations and all buildings, as our data is for the one building that we've got. So again, water disposed from the company. Usually the water supplied and the water disposed is almost the same. But if you've got different values, you've feel free to enter that here. And another one I've got to report under waste generated is waste disposed from the companies. So it's quantity of total waste. So we've got general waste, which is 0.39 tons. And I've also got recycle waste, which is 0.3471. So if your company has not measured your waste for the previous year or for 2023, we also have additional tool that can estimate the waste based on the type of building that your business operates in. So I will talk more about the additional tools that are available, but we've got an estimation tool that can help you estimate your waste as well. So now I've entered all the waste details under this category. So moving on to the next one, business travel. So under business travel, you can report on business travel and hotel stay. So our business travel. So we've had business travel land, and the vehicle type would be rail. And I choose the type of rail. So that's national rail, and total distance traveled is 494 miles. So how many employees from the reporting company travel together during? So this option is allowed here because if you have 2 or 3 employees going on a same business trip and traveling to the same places, this would avoid you from entering the same details again and again. So you can just give the number of people who traveled, who did the same business trip, and it would calculate the emissions for the 2 people. So if it's just one person, just give it as one there. So I save the data, and I've also got emissions for hotels, data for hotel stay. So that was amount spent on hotel stay. The country of stay was um, UK itself, and the amount spent is 490 pounds. So you can save. So that's business travel done, and then employee commute. Within employee commute, you will have to report on the employee commute and the home working emissions if you've got any hybrid working model or remote working model within your business. So so within employee commute, you will have to select the vehicle type, and that's average car. If you've got employees between medium, large, and small cars, you can feel free to use average cars. Or if you've got specific details on each vehicle that they use, feel free to use that as well. And the distance traveled by the employee per week. So that's 298 miles. And the operational duration of the company in weeks. So that's 50 weeks for us. So that's one type of employee commute added. And the next one is by bus. So it's the local bus. And that's 340 miles in total per week. That's again 50 weeks in a year. So I save this data. So our company, we follow the hybrid working model. So we also report on the home working emissions. So it's the total number of employees, and it's a percentage of employees working from home per week. So we all work from home every week. So average number of hours an employee works from home. So the average, I would say, 8 hours per week, and it's again 50 weeks per year. So for our company, we've reported all the different types of employee commute and the home working. And the last category to report on is downstream transportation and distribution. So we are a service-based company, and we do not have any downstream transportation and distribution to record on. So I've not got any data here to fill in. So once you've added all these details, you can then click on confirm and next, and the tool will then give you a pop-up saying what are the categories that you have not added data for, if in case you've missed anything. So you can go back and you can either add the data if you've got the data, or provide the justification of why this category is not applicable to your business. So I would say uh, our company is a service-based company. So we do not have any downstream 2020 and the emissions will report on. So this explanation that I give here will be directly fed into the carbon reduction plan that I will generate at the end. So I again save data and then confirm. So all my details have now been saved. So we are working on different features of the tool. As of now, if you would like to edit any of the tools, that's not available now, but it's coming in very soon. But as of now, you will only be able to delete that particular emission source and add it from the start if you would like to make any changes to this particular emission source as such. But very soon we will have the edit option as well, so that will make it easier for you. So once we've entered all the data and confirmed the details, you can then move on to the emissions report. So this is a very general report that is generated, and you can give it to your suppliers or customers or anybody. As such, this is not the carbon reduction plan. This is the whole breakdown of emissions. So you can view it per year, view it per location, and the different scopes as such. So that's all locations here. And so it's scope and all scopes. So you can also use this export feature to export this as a PDF report. So moving on to the next step, which is target setting. So the carbon reduction plan, to have a compliant carbon reduction plan, you must also have your net zero target set and also have any intermediate targets in place. So without setting your targets, you will not be able to generate a compliant carbon reduction plan. So please make sure once you've added all your emission sources, you have to then click on this target settings tab and then set your targets. So we allow setting near term and long term targets, and these two are all linear targets. So we follow the science based targets initiative, and we have linear target setting facility within BringAbout. So you can set your targets for all scope 1, 2, and 3 together, or you can also select them as scope 1 and 2 together and scope 3 together. So I would like to select my near term target. So base year is our 2023, and then I am setting a near term target for say 2030, and this 4.2 percentage is by default based on the science based target initiative, but you can also give any percentage higher than that as well. So once I save the target. I also set a near-term target for scope 3. You can do it together as one, scope 1, 2, and 3 as well. So, and my target here, I would set it as 2032. So that's my near-term target set. And then I am also setting my long-term target. So these tooltips would help you, would give further explanation of what near-term or long-term targets mean. So I'm setting a long-term target for all of my scope 1, 2, and 3 together. And I would like to set 2035 as my target here. So the tool would allow you to set any target up to 2050. And according to the SBTI, they encourage you to have a target of 90% at least. But if you cannot achieve the 90%, then feel free to change the percentage, but you must also give the explanation of why you can't achieve 90% reductions by 2035, and then you save the targets. So that's my near term and long term targets set. And now I can proceed further to generate my carbon reduction plan. So you can click on the additional reports, click on generate report. As of now, I only have 1 year, so I click on that. So this is the template which is compliant with the UK government's template. So you've got various text boxes here. So we have a feature deployment coming in tomorrow. So some of the text boxes that are necessary will be removed by tomorrow with from the BringAbout portal, but you can feel free to add any text if you would like to. So this is additional details relating to base year emissions calculation. So I do not have any additional details. So I just give a not applicable there. And then I have my all my emission calculated emissions reported here, and I also have my justification for why this category is not applicable to my business. So this is regarding the emission reduction targets. This text box is not applicable as I've got my target set. So this graph shows your long-term target and your current emissions here. And then the main section within the carbon reduction plan is what measures you try or you are planning to implement in future. So these measures must have a smart objective of when you are planning, or an estimate of when you are planning to have something implemented. So for us, we plan on installing LED lighting by March 2024 in Sana house. So the more specific you are about your initiatives, the clear the carbon reduction plan is. So you can have this here. We are also having an additional tool coming up within BringAbout that would help you set your initiatives and set smart objectives for each thing that you're planning to install. And if you've got any future measures to implement, you can also add that. So we plan to install solar panels in by end of 2026. So you can add these text boxes here. And once you have verified all your details, you can then click on export, which will export a carbon reduction plan. So this will have all the details that you've given, and you can then get your directors to sign and then change the date. So as of now, we only have the PDF option to download, but we will also soon have the Word document format that's easily editable. PDFs are also editable, but yeah, that's coming soon as well. So once you have your carbon reduction plan generated, you can then get it verified, signed by your director, and then upload that to your website. Or if you're entering any procurement process, you will have to supply this carbon reduction plan in order to be eligible for the procurement process as such. So I think this is to do with the whole demonstration of the BringAbout tool. Please feel free to ask any questions if you've got. And I've got a few more slides to show. And the other things with the tool is you can always reset your passwords, and uh, any major changes within the tool we will update you through email. But otherwise the tool is up and running now, and feel free to let us know if you've got any issues with it. Moving on to the other few slides that I've got. So within the BringAbout website, I've given the links here. We've got some additional tools to support emissions reporting. So, for example, if you've got 20 employees and each of them have a different commute that they use to come into the company every day, so you can use that Excel sheet to log all the data, and the final summary table will give you the total miles traveled by that particular type of vehicle as such, which you can easily enter into the tool. So we've got tools that help you for estimating your waste, to summarize your employee commute, business travel, the company owned vehicles as such, and also to log your transportation and distribution details as well. So feel free to use these tools to make your data collection process easier. And we've also got an FAQ section within the BringAbout website, which answers most of the frequently asked questions. And we've also got the knowledge folder, which has fact sheets and videos about the various energy efficient technologies that you can plan to install within your premises to reduce your emissions. And the other thing is to talk about the net zero, the Tees Valley Net Zero project. So businesses in Tees Valley are eligible for a grant fund of £2,000 on completion of a carbon reduction plan. So it's on a first come first serve basis, and the first 500 businesses will be given the grant. So we encourage all the businesses to start using Bring About right away. And if you've got any clarifications with respect to Bring About or data collection or any issues if you are finding within Bring About, please feel free to book the fully funded net zero consultations. So our consultants will be able to help you uh, get through the Bring About tool to generate your carbon reduction plan, which will then make you eligible to receive the £2,000 grant as well. And the businesses in Tees Valley also have access to the webinars, masterclasses, and various spotlight events, which are all to do with the net zero journey and emissions reporting, Bring About, etc. So please feel free to go through the website and make use of all the resources that are available. And any questions from the demonstration or anything related to? So if we've not got any questions, then that's the end of the. Okay. So how do we calculate our CRP if we are in a shared building? Um, so if you are in your shared building, you can then use the allocation method where you can calculate the emissions for the entire building and then allocate to the space that you occupy based on the area that you occupy as such. Or if you have a separate meter for the place that you occupy, then you can use the fuel consumption and electricity consumption data and generate your carbon reduction plan. But if you find it challenging to use the allocation method, or if you want to know more about it, you feel free to book a consultation with one of us, and we will be able to help you to guide you through that process. And next question, how long would a process take to complete? You asked they to register the info. So if you've got all your data collected and ready, it would just take 10 to 15 minutes to complete the entire process. But if you are in the process of collecting the data, and then the time you take to collect the data would matter. But if you've got all the data in place, it's just a matter of 15 minutes or so to complete. But if you've got any challenges again on collection of data, or if you need further guidance, please feel free to book a one-to-one consultation with us and we'll be able to help you with that. Is there an average carbon usage reduction target for companies? Number of employees? So reduction targets, the 4.2% that I mentioned to you is the average reduction target that's being encouraged by Science Based Targets Initiative in order to be in line with the science-based targets as such. But if you've got if you want more bespoke emission reduction target percentages, then you can work them out. But the average would be 4.2% linear reduction per year, and at least a 90% of reduction by your net zero. We do not encourage any offsets or anything as such, but there are some businesses which cannot go 200% net zero without purchase of offsets or something. There are some unavoidable emissions as such. So all businesses are encouraged to at least have 90% reduction by your net zero target year. Any other questions? So if we've not got any other questions, then that's the end of the webinar today. Again, I would like to insist on businesses booking one-to-one consultations with us in order to help you or support you with your journey to net zero and also generation of carbon reduction plans. Please feel free to go through the website and book consultations with us. Thank you.